Joe Biden on COVID-19.
Just judge this president on the facts. 5 million Americans infected by COVID-19. More than 170,000 Americans have died. By far the worst performance of any nation on earth.
Biden is right that in both coronavirus cases and deaths, the U.S. has the most of any other country. As of August 21st, the U.S. had 5.6 million cases and more than 174,000 deaths, according to Johns Hopkins University's COVID-19 dashboard. The next worst nation is Brazil, with 3.5 million cases and around 112,000 deaths. But by other metrics, the U.S. does not have the worst record. When population is factored in, other countries have more cumulative COVID-19 cases and deaths per capita, according to Oxford University's Our World in Data for August 20th. While the COVID-19 statistics for the U.S. are certainly grim, and America is by no means leading the world with its superior COVID-19 performance, by a variety of metrics, it is not the worst. Bill Clinton on the U.S. unemployment rate.
Our unemployment rate is more than twice as high as South Korea's, 2.5 times the United Kingdom's, more than 3 times Japan's. Donald Trump says we're leading the world. Well, we are the only major industrial economy to have its unemployment rate tripled.
It's true that the U.S. jobless rate nearly tripled between January and the most recent month on record. But Clinton's comparison is meaningless. That's because the U.S. counts a laid-off worker as unemployed, even if the layoff is expected to be temporary, while many other countries do not. In July, those on temporary layoff accounted for 56% of all those counted as unemployed in the U.S., according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. The Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development writes, "The United States are strongly relying on unemployment insurance benefits to secure the income of workers who lose their jobs, even in the case of a temporary crisis. Meanwhile, other OECD countries, not just in Europe, are making heavy use of job retention schemes, which allow companies to cut hours of work, or even halt work entirely, while keeping their workers attached." For example, Clinton said the U.S. rate is 2.5 times the United Kingdom's. That's true. The UK Office of National Statistics lists the unemployment rate as only 3.9%, compared with the U.S. rate of 10.2%. But the UK agency explains why. Workers furloughed under the coronavirus job retention scheme have a reasonable expectation of returning to their jobs after a temporary period of absence. Therefore, they are classified as employed. Hillary Clinton on billionaires during the pandemic.
It's wrong that billionaires got $400 billion richer during the pandemic, while millions lost their $600 a week in extra unemployment.
The $400 billion figure is misleading. It comes from a study by 2 liberal groups that claimed more than 600 American billionaires had gained $434 billion in net worth during what they erroneously called the first 2 months of the coronavirus pandemic. Actually, the pandemic started much earlier, costing those billionaires plenty. The study ignores the prior month when the stock market crashed. Between February 19th and March 18th, for example, the S&P 500 had already lost over 29% of its value. The study claimed the American billionaires had gained 15% in net worth in the 2 months following March 18th, but that was simply regaining what had been lost in the weeks before. Sanders on raising the minimum wage.
Joe supports raising the minimum wage to $15 an hour. This will give 40 million workers a pay raise and push the wage scale up for everyone else.
The senator is citing a statistic generated by the Economic Policy Institute, which has backing from labor unions and advocates the $15 wage proposal. But the nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office projects a much less dramatic impact, and some probable costs. CBO estimated in a July 2019 report that raising the federal minimum wage to $15 an hour by 2025 would increase the wages of 17 million workers whose wages would otherwise be below $15 per hour. That's 17 million, not 40 million. CBO added, another 10 million workers otherwise earning slightly more than $15 per hour might see their wages rise as well. That's perhaps 10 million, not everyone else who would see a ripple effect. CBO also projected the probability that 1.3 million low-wage jobs would simply be lost, something Sanders ignores. Hilda Solis on overtime pay.
He and President Obama made it easier for home care workers to organize. They extended overtime pay to more than 4 million workers.
Obama and Biden tried to do that, but the proposed overtime rule never went into effect. Federal labor laws require overtime pay, 1.5 times the regular pay, for time worked beyond 40 hours in a week. But there's an exemption for certain workers earning a certain amount. The Obama administration wanted to raise that income threshold to $47,476 a year from $23,660 a year. That would have made an additional 4.2 million employees eligible for overtime pay, according to Labor Department estimates at the time. The rule was supposed to take effect December 1, 2016, but a district court judge found the rule was unlawful and blocked it. The Trump administration proposed a different rule that took effect on January 1st that was expected to extend overtime pay for 1.3 million workers this year.